because I grew up in Thailand, my acquaintance with squat toilets was that it was beneficial, which we are now realizing that here in the West because of the manufacture of the little steps.
Welcome to the Tiny House Lifestyle Podcast, the show where you learn how to plan, build, and live the tiny lifestyle. I'm your host, Ethan Waldman, and this is episode 257 with Amanda Kovattana. Amanda Kovattana is a 6-year veteran of tiny house living, and she lives completely off-grid in the drought-ridden landscape of Northern California. In this conversation, we get a sense of all of the ingenious systems that Amanda has developed to live comfortably tiny while also working within the bounds of the resources that she has. She has a really interesting way of collecting rainwater, and in the course of the conversation, I discovered that she uses an alternate type of compost toilet. It's called Bokashi, and it's actually a fermentation method rather than composting. She's quite knowledgeable about the process, and I learned a whole lot in this conversation. I hope you stick around. Are you looking for a compact and affordable way to streamline your lifestyle? I'd like to tell you about the sponsor of this week's episode, PodXGo, and their new Grande S1 tiny home. This meticulously designed tiny home expands from a trailer to a 364 square foot home with just the push of a button. Certified by NOAA and built to ANSI 119.5 standards, the Grande S1 is towable with an F250 or equivalent. The PodXGo home is 99% factory built with healthy and eco-friendly materials, so you can rest easy knowing your home is taking care of you and the environment. It features a fully fitted kitchen, bedroom, bath, and living room with ingenious storage spaces throughout. PodXGo has even partnered with Renogy Solar Systems so you can live off-grid or reduce your energy bills. Discover the ultimate choice for your tiny lifestyle with PodXGo's Grande S1 model. PodXGo has launched their crowdfunding campaign with special pricing starting from just $49,000. Visit podxgo.com to watch a video of the S1 unfold and to get the crowdfunding launch discount. Again, that website is PodXGo, that's podxgo.com. Thank you so much to PodXGo for sponsoring our show. I am here with Amanda Kovattana. Amanda is a 6-year veteran of tiny house living situated in the drought landscape of Northern California, where she is focused on reducing her resource use, informed by her childhood growing up in pre-industrialized Thailand in the 60s and her coming of age in the San Francisco Bay Area in the 70s. She's the author of two memoirs, Diamonds in My Pocket and The Girl's Guide to Off-Grid Living. Amanda Kovattana, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. So tell me about your tiny house. This is a podcast, so most people who are, consuming this are just listening. Can you describe your house for us?
Oh, it's the smallest tiny house I've ever been in.
Okay.
It's built on a 7-foot by 14-foot trailer.
Okay.
So the actual footprint is, I think, 85 square feet, and it has a loft, which brings it to about 130 square feet. So it reminds me of the sailboat style of living.
Yeah.
From my childhood, my parents and I would like to sail in the San Francisco Bay, and we had it was a 32-foot sailboat outfitted for living.
Nice. Yeah, so the tiny house is a lot like a sailboat, isn't it?
Yes. When I fitted it out and completed it, it even had something of a nautical look to it in my eyes.
Yeah.
So I felt completed.
Yeah, I love your siding it looks like cedar shingles and it's got that dragon's tooth profile, which I've always loved that look.
Yes, yes. The look of it really sold me on it.
Uh-huh.
It was built and designed by a roofing contractor. So he did what he did best, even though in looking back, he said it was so much work, he probably would go with another siding.
Yes. Yeah, I did that just for basically my loft is under these two dormered parts of the house. And I did that dragon's tooth cedar shingles under there. And it is quite time consuming. But actually kind of fun. I enjoyed doing that part of the siding. There's something you can envision that's how houses were sided hundreds of years ago, and you can envision doing it. You know, all you need is a hammer and nails to put up that kind of siding.
Yes, I preserve it, the nice rich cedar color, by staining it every 2 years.
Okay.
Which is a half-day project.
Yep.
So I feel that I am acquainted with all of its many characteristics.
Yeah, I'll bet. So, your book, The Girl's Guide to Off-Grid Living, I'm assuming that you live completely off-grid in your tiny house?
I have solar power, and a battery bank.
Okay.
I am hooked up to a hose that my landlord offers, and the water comes from a reservoir in town here.
Okay.
So, in a way, the town itself is self-sufficient water-wise. So but I also collect water I have about 550 gallons just around the house in storage.
Okay.
And that is what I use for my garden.
So I was going to ask about that. You have many of let's see, I've seen them at Lowe's and Costco and all the big box stores, those black plastic bins with the yellow lids. They're great. I love those things. But it looks like you've drilled lots of holes in the covers and then you've got them situated kind of around the tiny house. Is that your water catchment system?
Yes, it is. It just came to me when I was wandering around Home Depot looking for containers, and they happened to have a sale on these huge 55-gallon boxes. And I was like, 55 gallons, that sounds familiar. And that's how much you get in a drum, which is usually used for water catchment.
Right.
So I was putting the two together, and it works great because I could just lay them all under the eaves. And it also worked to keep the wind from blowing under the tiny house.
Right.
So in a sense, it added insulation.
Right. So it's almost like a skirting for your tiny house, but it's a functional skirting.
Right. I did have to fill in the gaps with, I used the silver emergency blankets to make an actual skirting, and some black plastic bags that I filled with old pillows I would stuff in the cracks. So this tiny house living is an ongoing do-it-yourself management project.
Yeah, absolutely. So sticking on the water, I love the simplicity of the system because you haven't had to put up any gutters or any piping. Gutters are notoriously expensive and finicky. The water just rolls off the roof, and then the lid of the bin kind of functions as a filter.
It does. It keeps the leaves out and everything.
Yep.
And critters.
Yep.
And then in the summer, I can take the lids off and just dip a bucket in, which is a lot faster than waiting to fill with a spigot from the usual water.
Yeah.
butts that people can install.
Yeah. So do you have any kind of plumbing or piping going from those bins, or is it just like completely manual, like you fill up a watering can or you fill up a bucket?
Oh, it's definitely all manual
Okay.
because part of the benefit of keeping everything manual and direct is that I get a lot of exercise hefting 5-gallon
Yes.
buckets around.
Yep. Well, it's a saying in wood stoves that wood stoves warm you 3 times.
Mm,
1 when you chop the wood, 2 when you build the fire, and then 3 the stove.
exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Cut it, split it, and burn it. Yeah, that's the saying. So you have a great blog that I was checking out, kind of a journal, a memoir almost of your systems and your living tiny. And you have talked a lot about your compost toilet, and how that system works. And I actually had never heard of the system that you use, and tell me if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Bokashi.
Yes, Bokashi is a Japanese fermentation system also
Okay.
used in Korea and other Asian cultures.
Okay.
In fact, all cultures have fermentation of some sort in our food history. But
Okay.
Bokashi was developed more recently by Japanese in agriculture to make compost faster
Uh-huh.
with agricultural waste.
Okay.
And I was introduced to it by an American who had worked with it in Hawaii and
Okay.
seen it in production. And she showed me an American site where you could buy these Bokashi kits, and they have a pet waste Bokashi system that they sell. So I could just buy everything I needed.
Hmm. So how does it work? I mean, I've never heard of it, and I'm sure that our listeners will be interested. Can you describe kind of how the
Yes,
fermentation system works?
the pet waste system comes with 2 screw top 3-gallon buckets, and you put in 2 gallons of water, a cup of effective microorganism in a liquid form,
Okay.
and then after every deposit, you sprinkle across the top this bran, like rice husk or other
Okay.
kind of vegetative bran that has been infused with the same effective microorganisms.
Okay.
And then they also want you to spray a bit more of the liquid that has been in water, dissolved in water a bit.
Uh-huh.
So you're basically after every deposit, you're helping to push the fermentation. And then once the bucket is filled, the screw top goes on and you leave it,
Okay.
trade it out with the second bucket. You leave it for 3 weeks or so
Okay.
and let the fermentation happen. And what then a sort of white fungus, I suppose it be called, begins to grow.
Okay.
The process is that the effective microorganisms eat the pathogens, and then another tier of beneficial bacteria eat those, and the
Okay.
process keeps going until the whole bucket is neutralized as far as being a pathogen. And then it's recommended to dig a hole in the
Okay.
earth to pour it into and bury that. And then you leave it for a month or so before trying to plant anything into it.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked with it and changed the process a little. Once you start digging up your whole garden, you run out of places to dig. And then
right.
in the summer here, when we have no rain at all, the ground is so hard that you might as well get a pickaxe out. So
yeah,
I don't dig up the ground. I collect the dirt, the soil that the gophers dig up, and I collect all that into a bucket, a big sized bucket, and I mix the compost with the soil in there, and it works just as well. And I've used that soil mixed in with other soil to fill my garden beds. So the soil is constantly being offered more nutrients, much the same as if you poured regular compost on it.
Interesting.
So that's basically the process.
Yeah, a fermentation process. So how, I'm guessing that the pet waste system is a bit smaller than a human might need. How have you had to adapt? I'm guessing you've had to adapt, and I guess we're not shy on this show about talking about poop because that's what most people who don't live tiny are the most curious about. So
good.
Your collection, so like in the house, your toilet, so in my tiny house, I use the Humanor, the Joe Jenkins Humanor handbook system. So essentially the toilet is a 5-gallon Home Depot bucket. And when you go, everything gets mixed in, pee and poop go in the same bucket, and sawdust is added each time you go. So what's the like inside collection system for you? Or like, do you have a toilet in the house, or do you use this outside?
I do. I have. That was the first thing I built, was my supposed composting toilet. And it collected pee separately into a oil container that you can just get at the auto parts store. And then originally I had placed a bucket on top of that oil that oil container for poop, and did the sawdust. And that was how my original design. But when I was introduced to the Bokashi design and it came with the bucket and all, then I just kept the bucket separate to poop into.
Okay.
And I used my original toilet, which has a toilet seat and everything, for pee.
Okay.
So it ends up being a squat toilet, my poop toilet, because I use it with a little bench next to it.
Okay.
And because I grew up in Thailand, my acquaintance with squat toilets was that it was beneficial.
Right.
This was the beneficial position.
Right.
Which we are now realizing that here in the West, because of the manufacture of the little steps.
The squatty potty.
Yes, exactly. Which was so amusingly advertised.
Yes, it was. Well, that's
and then it takes about 3 weeks or so, 3 or 4 weeks to fill the bucket.
Okay.
Just by myself. So the chore of having to carry it out and do all the processing only comes, 11 times a year or so. Because I'm on vacation part of the year too.
Nice.
And then the toilet that is I still use for the pee toilet, I have to empty it every 2 or 3 days.
Okay.
Which is similar to the one that everybody else seems to be using, the one built for boats. The head. Nature's head.
Nature's head, yeah.
Right. Mine doesn't overflow, though. I know that the Nature's Head one has been known to overflow if you're not watching.
Right. If you're not watching, the urine container can overfill. Yeah. And those, those Nature's Head and those other commercial units are quite expensive.
Oh, yes.
Compared to, what it costs to build a humidor toilet or something like yours, plastic buckets, plastic funnels, these things are very inexpensive. And
exactly. $20.
I'm curious, what I like about the, humidor system is that I'm not relying on any like company to provide me with the materials once I've built it. I mean, I do have to find sawdust, but where my tiny house used to be, I was about 20 minutes down the road from a sawmill and I could go and fill up a
Yes.
trash can of sawdust there. Now I'm right near like a woodworking school and they don't, and so I take their dust from their dust collection system. What kind of ongoing like supplies do you need to buy? Because I'm guessing you need to buy that brand. What are the costs for that, and how often are you having to buy those supplies?
I really don't have to buy it very often. I'm remembering like once a year.
Okay, so infrequent.
And I basically buy a gallon of the liquid microorganisms, and then a few bags, like 3 pounds of the bran.
Okay.
Which I also use to compost kitchen waste in similar way, because I once I got into it, I was like, yeah, this could also work. So cost of that, I think it's maybe $60 or something. To replenish. But you can, if I were motivated, I could make my own bran.
Okay.
But that's, in this homesteading life, I can't be doing everything.
Right.
In some countries like Thailand, where I am also visiting, you can buy at the local Home Depot type place the effective microorganisms, because they use it in other applications. So it's more common. We haven't quite adopted it as much for it to be available to buy locally.
Right. It's not commonplace here.
But I am always aware of, and I could easily go back to the sawdust system.
Right. Well, that's the beauty of it. It seems like you kind of can do whatever's convenient, whatever's working, you can always switch back.
Yes. Being flexible is a good thing to build into your tiny house for resilience.
Yes. What's the saying? 2 is 1 and 1 is none. When it comes to resiliency of systems, you always need a backup.
Yes. Yes.
In the photos you sent, which are great, and I just want to ask you about what these things are. So there's a photo that you sent. It looks like it's near the ceiling of your tiny house, and it's some kind of net. It's like a black net suspended by a bungee cord. So what is that, and what problem is that solving for you?
That was one of my more imaginative workarounds to be able to hang laundry.
Okay.
Inside the house, in case it got, the sun went down and I hadn't been able to dry it completely, I could hook this up and have it up in the loft.
Nice.
But I ended up not using it like that.
Okay.
In fact, because I was doing laundry outside, I was just using a wooden rack.
Yep.
That most people are familiar with. But it would blow over in the wind.
Right. And then your laundry gets dirty.
So I took my netting, which is a cargo net from the auto supply store, and I rigged it I hung it from the tree that's just outside. And that worked just as well to clothespin my laundry to.
Nice. I love your hammock that you have too. That looks like, is that kind of your main seating in the house, the hammock?
Oh, yes, it is. It's hung from one end of the house to the other. So I'm basically lying in the hammock in the middle of my house, and everything is within reach from the kitchen.
Oh, so the hammock can slide on a rope?
Well, the rope that holds the hammock up is connected to both walls, so it doesn't really slide. It's just that it's the length of the house.
Okay.
And the hammock ends up being in the middle.
Okay.
And so it's great for lying in and typing on my laptop. I can change positions and plump up my backrest with pillows and things. And then because I have it facing my larger monitor that's connected to my laptop, I can watch movies from it too. So it's been a all-purpose seating for many applications.
Nice.
But I also have folding camp chairs to create variety and to take outside for company, because it's much easier to sit outside in the garden on my little turf of AstroTurf.
Right. I love the way you're storing your knives and other metal kitchen utensils. Can you talk about that setup?
Yes, I during the lockdown, I just found little projects to amuse myself, and I glued magnets to the siding of my kitchen. It's corrugated metal. And then I could just hang things like a spatula and a kitchen knife and little knives.
Love it.
So it also made it easier to just wash those implements and hang them up to dry right over the shower pan.
Nice. I love that.
It has a fun look to it, kind of like Psycho's a kitchen knife inside.
Yeah, the knives are all kind of every which way. And so, in your bio, we talk, I mentioned this and you talk about it too, is that you live in a very drought prone area. So can you talk about, how you use water at your tiny house, or how you use and reuse water at your tiny house?
Yes, it's very easy to just walk my dishwater to the door and pour it in a 5-gallon bucket. And I don't use my shower in the conventional shower way, because when I took the workshop in how to build a tiny house, the woman who was teaching said she basically abandoned her shower because it steamed up the house and then everything gets too damp. So she preferred to bathe by going down to the beach and jumping into the Pacific Ocean.
Sounds nice.
Yes. So I did not put in a shower head or any enclosure. I decided to go the Asian way of using a dipper in a sink full of water and kind of sponge bath type method that way.
Yeah.
Which I was already familiar with from Thailand.
Showers definitely take up a lot of space in a tiny house, and your tiny house is particularly tiny, so I can certainly understand not wanting to put one in.
Right. I haven't missed it. I mean, I do go to other people's houses and have showered at their houses just
Yep.
for a change.
Big shower day.
Yeah. I used to do laundry at other people's houses too, but during the lockdown, that was another thing to expand on.
Yep.
To figure out.
Do you just do laundry by hand, like in a sink or in a bucket?
In a bucket with the plunger.
Oh, okay.
Laundry machine that you can get at Amish outfits and now on Amazon.
Okay.
Now that they make them plastic rather than galvanized metal, they hold up better. And it's actually works better than an agitator washing machine, I think. Because you can do spot stains, you can scrub them individually.
Yep. And then the plunger type thing just lets you kind of agitate the clothes back and forth?
Yes. And that's really the main action of this 5-gallon bucket laundry method.
Nice.
But what really laundry seems to be one of the barriers for people to live off grid. So a lot of attention has been paid to it, and I discovered that the hardest part about it is wringing out the clothes. Washing is easy, but trying to get the water out of the clothes is the challenge. So I did buy one of those hand crank roller things.
Okay.
That, we've seen from yesteryear.
Yeah.
And that was difficult to use because it seems to presume that you'd have 2 pairs of hands, one to crank and one person to feed the clothes in. And then it didn't really get the clothes squeezed out enough. So I was looking for other newer inventions. And again, in Asia, in tiny Japanese apartments, someone had contrived to make a spin dryer that is hand operated.
Okay.
Much like a salad spinner, only with rope and handles.
Okay.
And I got one of those, and it does a great job.
Nice.
It pulls the water out that can then drain into a bucket to use in the garden.
Okay.
And you don't have to handle each item individually. You're just cramming it into this little basket inside the spin thing.
Spin thing. Yeah. I just found the picture of you using it on your blog. Yeah. I'll add that in for the show notes because I think people will be really curious to see it.
Right. There's also an electric spin dryer.
Yes.
That I have used too. But then you're using electricity.
Right.
But it's a very low use of, it's only like 3 minutes.
Right. It's real quick. It's like people are probably familiar. Sometimes at the gym, they'll have a spinner so that you can like, if there's a pool, you can spin out your wet bathing suit, you know, before you go home.
Right. Yes.
You also have, I would describe it as it's a board, it's a piece of wood or something with a whole coil of black piping kind of attached to it and a hose coming out. Is that some kind of hot water setup?
Yes, I tried that.
Okay.
And it's like laying a hose out in the sun. And I was really intent on it, as you can see, with all the zip ties that I had to use to keep to mold that garden irrigation pipe to this frame.
Yeah.
And it worked great, but it didn't keep the water hot once the sun went down.
Right.
So to do that properly, you'd have to make like a solar oven box around it that was insulated. So it didn't seem worthwhile. It's easier just to boil water But my go-to during the summer months is to just put out my solar oven, fill 3 glass bottles with water, and put them in the solar oven. And, in a few hours, it's hot water, and I pour it into thermos carriers. You can get a gallon or 2-gallon thermos. And that keeps the water hot enough to use through the rest of the day.
Yeah.
For washing up and bathing and what have you.
Brilliant. I love it. I love talking to someone who's lived tiny for long enough that you've run into problems, you've designed solutions for them. Maybe those solutions haven't worked the way that you've wanted them to, and then you keep iterating. You keep kind of seeing if you can improve the systems a little bit at a time.
Because that's the whole point of this experiment in reduced living, is to see what actually works over the long haul.
Yeah. So you've been living tiny 5 years. Do you have an end date in sight, or are you're just going until you don't want to keep going? I
don't have an end date. I mean, people who were watching me doing this were like, I look forward to the day that you come back to indoor plumbing. And I'm like, no, this is the whole fun of it.
Yeah.
If anything, it would be to be able to stay fit for as long as I can climb up into the loft, and for as long as I can carry these buckets in and out.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this is what is keeping me fit.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. It's almost like the tiny house. The tiny house puts you in shape to live in the tiny house, and vice versa.
Right. Yes, it's built in that way. I do have the option of living in a larger house, my mother's house, because she needs someone to take care of it. So I go to her house a couple of nights a week. So in that sense, I am getting the best of both worlds.
Okay.
I can go there to do laundry when it's, bad weather.
Yeah.
And to cook casseroles, which I really can't do here in the tiny house.
Right.
And in the winter, when it rains for several days, I run out of power because there's no solar. And my power bank is only really good for that day's accumulation. I could expand the battery pack so that it can hold more energy for the days where there are no sun. But I'm putting that off for the time being. In fact, I bought some of those portable batteries that are now so frequent, the Jackery line, as a stopgap for when the power does go out here. And I've also learned that really the only thing that is in danger without power is that my ice cream melts.
And that's sad.
Yes. So, in the winter, maybe I give up ice cream a little. And my only refrigeration is a freezer, which I keep outside to make blocks of ice in containers, plastic containers, that I then put into the cooler. So outside, I have the freezer running off of solar power. It's plugged directly into the components. And when the power shuts off, it's okay for the freezer to not have power because nothing really thaws out. It takes a while. It'll take a day or two for anything to be damaged.
Yeah. Okay.
So I live with that. I live with the freezer cutting off and coming back on in the morning.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And those are good things to know too, because I mean, California, we not only have the threat of earthquake, but the fires, which means that power is cut a lot,
Mm-hmm.
especially areas that are wooded, like the town I'm living in. The power was off a lot in the summer, but I didn't notice at all because I was off grid, of course. And then in the winter, I do notice, but everyone else has power. So in that sense, if I really wanted my neighbor to keep my ice cream, I could walk over and ask for the favor.
You could. Right, but then you might have to share it with them.
Yes. I mean, tiny house living is not to live in isolation. It
Of
actually
course.
helps you to live more in community.
Absolutely. And you mentioned that you live in the backyard or in,
Yes.
on another property.
It's a beautiful rural property.
Okay.
People keep horses in this area. And so my landlord, his house is down the hill at one end of the property, and I'm living at the other end.
Okay.
And part of my rent is to help manage the vegetation, which is for fire danger.
Okay.
And that's very satisfying to do, to cut away all the dead brush that accumulates.
I'll bet.
And is helpful to the town.
Yeah. And important for more than just you and more than just that property.
Yes.
So I know that fires are unfortunately becoming more and more prevalent in the West. Have you ever had to evacuate and move the tiny house?
I did not move the tiny house.
Mm-hmm.
When we had evacuation orders in 2020 because of these lightning fires that were really freakish, and the town was ordered to evacuate, and I went back and forth in my mind, should I try to drive this rig out? I don't even have a truck to drive it, so it's a big deal to rent one, and getting it in here was difficult enough. And I thought about it, and I was thinking, well, if the place burned down, what would I come back to? I'd be stuck looking for a new place, and it was just all too much. It was too overwhelming. So I just gathered the things that I needed and stayed at my mother's house for the duration.
Okay.
Luckily, we were not even encroached by the fire. It was like 2 towns away, and there was lots of water bridges that would break up the possibility. So it wasn't as dire as
that's good.
It could have been.
I'm glad to hear that.
It was interesting watching what people hauled out of here, though. Their entire collection of rocks, crystals, and that's what one person loaded her car with, along with her cats.
Well, different things are important to different people, right?
Yes, exactly.
So tell me about your memoir, The Girl's Guide to Off-Grid Living.
Yes, I was first intending just to write a pamphlet about how to build your own composting toilet. But then, of course, YouTube took over at making it much easier for people to learn visually. So I thought, well, maybe I will write about why I wanted to build a composting toilet. And then that led to, well, maybe I will write about why a woman would even want to design a life around a composting toilet. And as I got into it, there were no ends of stories where I chose to do something that was different, more off-grid. And before long, I had 300 pages of stories from my life in Thailand and my life growing up in the US, doing the do-it-yourself hippie era, and all the things I had learned from various other homesteader back to the land movement, because I was able to visit those friends who had done that.
Yeah.
So it all became quite a book. Some would say it's a long story. They don't know what it's about, but I feel that it all is on the one theme of why would you go this route, this
Nice.
non-mainstream, off-grid, free-range child grows up and builds her own house kind of thing.
Becomes a free-range adult, right?
Yes, exactly. It gave me great pleasure to write it, to get down my life story in this fashion. So, and I also did the off-grid publishing route of self-publishing.
Nice.
Designing the book and the covers and the interior. So that too was a fun experience to upload it myself to the Amazon platform.
Nice.
Which of course is not off-grid at all. It's
of course. But
but that's the irony of our life, isn't it?
Exactly.
We use tech to connect and talk about how we're disconnected.
Yes. We're nothing but paradoxes.
Exactly.
And then tell us about your other memoir.
The other memoir, Diamonds in My Pocket, was mostly about my life growing up in Thailand.
Okay.
Because it was difficult for me to sort out what had influenced my life. Why was I so different from my peers here in America? And it had a lot to do with the Thai culture and my relatives there. So that was my first exploration as a writer, was to try and figure out what had raised me. And also my relatives. There was a lot of very powerful women in my family who had significant jobs in the Bangkok economy. My grandmother was working with the government, and my aunt was running the family business. And they were role models for me, so they were powerful in that sense. And I wanted to capture how they had influenced me.
Nice.
And the book informed me of who I was. So that was the gift of it.
That's lovely.
My mother really liked it too.
Nice. Are you working on any writing projects now?
Oh yes, I am continuing to write. The tiny house is ideal as a writing shack.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Because there's far less temptation to get up and clean something.
Right.
My writing pals, they often talk about how they can't sit down to write until the kitchens are being cleaned up and everything finished. So there's less maintenance. Since I live alone, there's nobody to have to accommodate as far as getting time free. And it feels like it's far away from the madding crowd.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, one thing that I like to ask all my guests is, what are 2 or 3 resources that have helped you out on your tiny house journey that you'd like to share with our listeners? And that could be books or YouTube channels or products, tools, really open-ended. What can't you live without?
Well, at this point, YouTube is just a profound
yes
platform of just about anything I would try to do.
It sure is.
People who are proud to show how they work things out. And it's a very folk art too, making your own videos. And it's gotten the level of production values have also climbed.
They sure have. They sure have.
I mean, I used to go to the library to read all of those hippie how to make your own clothes books and make your own camping equipment and how to build an igloo. But that took a different skill of trying to translate words and diagrams into actual reality. Yeah, so that I can't think of any better resources. There's always discussions going on around, people writing books about what would be the best social thing to do to improve our sustainability that I keep up with too.
Nice. Well, Amanda Kovattana, thank you so much for being a guest on the show today. I loved learning about all of your systems that you've developed, and I'm looking forward to continuing to follow your journey on your blog.
Thanks very much for having me.
Thank you so much to Amanda Kovattana for being a guest on the show today. You can find the show notes, including a full transcript of this episode and photos of Amanda's various tiny house systems, over at thetinyhouse.net/257. Again, that's thetinyhouse.net/257. Thank you so much to PodXGo for sponsoring the show today. Don't forget to check them out at podxgo.com. Well, that's all for this week. I'm your host, Ethan Waldman, and I'll be back next week with another episode of the Tiny House Lifestyle Podcast.